Petra and James wake up early after a romantic night. James stays in bed longer as Petra races to class. Oversleeping causes him to wake up late. He runs through the city as fast as he can to his philosophy class, where Mr. Zimmett hesitates before answering the door. Since this is the last day of class, Mr. Zimmett asks students to submit their best thinking experiment. If given a typewriter and infinite time, a monkey will transcribe Hamlet, according to Chips. Jack mentions the tram problem, which requires you to pull a lever to determine if a train will kill 1 or 4 people. For fun, they turn the puzzle into the obese man problem, where you must decide whether to push a fat man into the railway lines to stop the tram. Georgina likes the uninformed bliss paradox, when someone hangs over the city's highest building to see whether friends would save them. The friends back off because they fear being pulled over if they pull them up. The person slips and lives, but they wonder if knowing their friends wouldn't aid is better or if ignorance is bliss. Zimmett's last thinking assignment for the year requires pupils to picture a bunker for a year in the event of a nuclear disaster. Zimmett recounts the event to encourage everyone to imagine a nuclear explosion-stricken location. Zimmett guides them on an imaginary bunker tour, explaining that there are only enough supplies for 10 people. 20 students are in class, thus they must accept and reject. They don't have much time to decide before atomic radiation impacts them. Georgina declines to participate because she thinks it's like talking about eugenics, but Zimmett shows how dreadful radiation death is, so she joins. Petra also refuses, even leaving, because she knows Zimmett can't lower her grades as they've always been perfect. When Zimmett threatens to lower James' marks, he fails the course. Petra stays. Zimmett then distributes cards with students' arbitrary vocations for the exercise. Zimmett opens the package for James first and sneezes at the desk before giving Petra a card. Coughing into the desk, he distributes cards to the gathering. Students may now investigate their preferred careers, which include harpist, wine auctioneer, astronaut, and scientist. Toby, a published poet, barely finishes before Zimmett shoots him and reveals that he stole the gun from the bunker. Zimmett says that this is more compassionate than letting him die from radiation since he wouldn't join the bunker since a poet is worthless when humanity has to be restored. Zimmett adds that his employment is unclear, therefore regard him as a wild card despite his participation in the exercise. Each student votes after defending their bunker entry right. Petra, a structural engineer, James, a farmer, Georgina, an orthopedic surgeon, Chips, a carpenter, Jack, a chemist, Bonnie, a soldier, Andy, an electrician, Poppy, a psychiatrist, and Omoseed, a senator are their initial 9 survival possibilities. 9 useless contestants: Vivian, a naturalist, Beatrice, a fashion designer, Parker, a gelato maker, Kavi, a real estate agent, Russell, a harpist, Plum, a hedge fund manager, Nelson, a cleaner, Mitzi, a wine auctioneer, and Yoshiko, an astronaut, are quickly eliminated. Zimmett or opera singer Utami must finish last. Jack says being an opera singer is a luxury, therefore he'd rather take a chance on Zimmett since he could know something. Petra thinks a wild card is risky. Zimmett wins, and after 5 minutes, the groups say goodbye while rearranging the tables to resemble a dialogue. They learn Zimmett has killed everyone who didn't obtain a seat after hearing gunshots and has repeated claims that it was the compassionate thing to do. Petra whispers to James that she no longer wants Zimmett in the bunker as the gang reacts in disbelief. James comes up with a scheme and instructs everyone to pick some plants before entering the bunker, saying they will be saving them for when they emerge to replant them. James talks to each person in turn and informs them of his idea while they are all separated so that the gathering may be done. When the moment is right, the team enters the bunker, disables the exterior keypad, and then shuts the door, leaving Zimmett outside. Then they browse about the various rooms, where there is an artificial garden, a daybed, a gym, literature, and other purportedly antidepressant items. James approaches Petra on the huge bed in the evening while everyone is sleeping on cots and assures her that they can overcome any obstacle together. When James nods out, Petra checks on Zimmett and discovers him slowly smoldering from the radiation. Zimmett suddenly brings up a piece of paper that claims only he is in possession of the exit code. Petra phones the group right away, and they start debating what to do because they aren't sure whether or not to believe Zimmett. They ultimately decide to disregard him, and they start to spend the rest of the year in the bunker. They are seldom able to keep themselves occupied with menial work since it is so uninteresting. Zimmett's body is slowly decomposing, and every day Petra checks on it. Occasionally, a dog will stop by and eat it. After a year has passed, the gang prepares to leave, only to find that Zimmett was correct. The lock requires an exit code. The pupils continue to try to shatter the door using various techniques, but they are unsuccessful. With the limited resources they still have, they attempt to survive for a few more days, but they quickly run out, so they decide to terminate their own lives for a more compassionate conclusion. Zimmit informs the class that the experiment was a failure and discloses that he is a bunker builder. In fact, he was the one who constructed that specific bunker, making him the only one in possession of the code. The pupils decide to start again and choose Mont Bromo as their new imagined setting. Petra realizes that Zimmit is attempting to acquire a pistol once more. The second property of the cards, which may affect the votes, is then made public. James is gay, yet despite receiving less votes for his agricultural skills, he is still welcomed. Georgina the surgeon isn't included this time since she was exposed to the Ebola virus. Hedge fund manager Plum is welcomed since she regularly travels with a bag of riches. Despite being sterile, Chips the carpenter is once again welcomed due to his abilities. The structural engineer Petra is spared since she is also an electrical engineer. When Andy the electrician confesses he has a fatal ailment that is extremely rare, he gets turned down. Poppy the psychologist is excluded since she cannot bear children. She is excluded one more time after Vivian the biologist admits she is a PETA supporter. Jack the scientist gets approved once again since he won the genetic lottery and will live a long and healthy life. Since they no longer have Georgina as their doctor, Kavi, the real estate salesperson who doubles as a midwife, is allowed to stay this time. Parker the gelato maker is left out because someone else has 2 extra characteristics and he has none. Utami, an opera singer, has 2. She can speak 7 languages, but in 3 years, a throat tumor will cause her to lose her ability to speak, leaving her out of the conversation. Even though Mitzi the wine auctioneer has an IQ of 200, she is once again ignored. Russell the autistic harpist and Beatrice the fashion designer, who made a well-known line of women's apparel from bamboo, both find themselves excluded once more. The Senator Omoseed is once more protected since she will be the first female chief judge of the Supreme Court. Bonnie the soldier, who possesses eidetic memory, is once more saved. Nelson the housekeeper is exceptionally kind, which initially does not assist him, but he ultimately stays when Petra claims that they need more guys and Omoseed contends that they need more hard-working, strong workers from the middle class. Toby the poet is going to describe his characteristic when Zimmit kills him once again and says that because the gang still doesn't know the code, this place is for him. The folks who were left outside then try to flee to safety as soon as Zimmit hands Georgina the keys to a truck. Unfortunately, the explosion strikes the car. As the mundane daily routine resumes, the selected ones also start to run in order to make it to the bunker in time. Later that night, when Petra wakes up, she notices that James isn't in his bed. She goes looking for him and finds him having a sexual encounter with Jack, who is actually gay. They decide it's time to talk about how they would come together to reproduce after Petra is harmed and hurries outside to inform the others what she witnessed. Chips doesn't require assistance because he is infertile, while Jack and James reject the idea because they can't even pretend to be men in order to have offspring. Omoseed and Nelson are partnered together, as well as Bonnie and Kavi. Petra agrees to do it with Zimmit as retaliation for her lover, disbelieving James' assertion that she still loves him. The 3 couples begin to flirt as the world is being destroyed by explosions outside. Zimmit argues that they need to switch spouses after 10 weeks of no pregnancies, arguing the females should have various partners. Bonnie declines, arguing that their application of reasoning to the problem is going too far and shouldn't take the place of her agreement. Zimmit leaves the room, only to come back holding a pistol and ordering everyone but Bonnie to leave. The gang flees, but Jack is able to skulk around a corner. When Zimmit is called to attention, Jack rushes him and forces him to drop the pistol. The men battle until Zimmit overpowers Jack, but Bonnie swiftly snatches it up and holds Zimmit at gunpoint. But in response, Jack uses a pen to stab Zimmit in the ear. Zimmit, who is devastated, enters the code to open the front door and drags everyone down with him. Once more, the students fail the task. James is now more dubious and doubts Zimmit's motivations for the exercise. He brings up the odd cough he had when he gave Petra and him the rolls and notes that Zimmit hasn't had one since. James quickly snatches the box from the desk and sprints away from Zimmit to open it and reveal the secret. James and Petra would consistently receive the same results, a homosexual farmer and a double engineer, because the box, it turns out, contains secret compartments and their cards had been tampered with. Zimmit mentions the analogy of Plato's cave in response to James' question on why he is the target of his special hatred. In this parable, a guy spends his entire life confined to a wall and believes that reality only appears as shadows and sounds as echoes. When the guy is finally freed, he realizes that the shadows and echoes are actually bodies and voices, and that everything he had thought to be true was actually simply an illusion. James doesn't believe Zimmet when he claims that this metaphor is similar to James and that the exercise is intended to confront James about how his privilege has left him unprepared for the real world. The fact that Zimmet made him a homosexual farmer rather than anything meaningless like a florist indicates that he intentionally intended to prolong his pain rather than making him vote him out from the start. Petra interrupts the discussion at that point and requests that the experiment be repeated 3 times, this time with James acting as a florist. Now, since the end of the world has not yet occurred, their thoughts transport them to an island. As usual, Zimmet enters the bunker to get a weapon. He hears a disturbance but ignores it. Petra follows him outside as he returns, giving him a hug and expressing her understanding that it must have been difficult for him. Petra then states that she has a strategy and requests everyone's faith in her to decide who gets to enter the bunker. When everyone is in agreement, Petra makes her decisions and justifies them. Because a brilliant wine auctioneer would be astute enough to pack both red and white wine on a vacation, ensuring that everyone has a wonderful time, Mitzi is rescued. Dressing well increases self-esteem, which increases productivity and could rescue civilization, saving Beatrice. Kobe is spared since he took cards with him and will be entertained because his second ability turns out to be that of a champion poker player. Russell is also kept alive by the fact that many people view autism as a gift. Petra takes Georgina in and says she would pray for her because they don't have any evidence that she has Ebola despite the fact that she has just been exposed to it. In 3 years, opera singer Utami may go deaf, but for the time being, everyone may fall asleep to her singing and rescue both of them. Jack gets accepted because of his exceptional genes, but he is disappointed that, due to his orientation, he won't have a mate. Parker is also spared since he emerges from the closet at that same moment. Petra selects James with just 2 spaces remaining. In the classroom, everyone is seated together as a team while the chosen ones enter the bunker. Zimmet has been whining the entire time, and with each decision, he pushes Petra's grade all the way to failing, but as he sees the pointless people enter the bunker, he loses it and grabs his rifle. He looks for it, but it's gone. Petra apparently took it when she embraced him earlier. When she hands it back to him, she reveals that it isn't loaded. Petra gives Zimmet 2 bullets and says she doesn't want him to suffer as she did the previous time. But James then threatens Zimmet with a gun and it is revealed that he was the source of the commotion within the bunker. Zimmet, who is fighting for his life, claims that he is the only one who knows the escape code, but Bonnie utilized her incredible memory to memorize it during the last run. Zimmet departs, feeling defeated. The final position is intended for Bonnie, but Petra wants to give it to her instead, so Chips fills it. Petra refuses to go with them, claiming she'll take the boat and try to escape the radiative zone, only for Chips to reveal he has the boat keys in this iteration of the exercise where James is no longer homosexual. Before the door closes, Chips moves quickly to shove Petra through and take her position. Petra continues to narrate the exercise as the rest of the group runs to the boat to leave the island, explaining that even though the conditions were terrible, they managed to have fun during the year in the bunker because they had cards, wine, Shakespeare performances, and their own original poems. Petra is told by James how much he loves her, but she is hesitant to say the same thing back. When equipment malfunctions in the bunker, the parts are used to create a harp, which Russell plays and Utami sings on to create enchanted evenings. After a year, the crew emerges from the bunker to find that the explosives never detonated. Zimmet asserts that they will all die since none of them have the technical skills to survive on an island, while Petra says they will be satisfied and ready to die. James is about to launch a rocket that fell into the shore when Zimmet fires to stop him. He found a tunnel deep enough to shelter himself from radiation. He survived there for a year utilizing what he could find. Zimmet threatens to shoot James with his final bullet since he can't let them wipe out humanity, but the other survivors stand in front of him as a shield. They use the chance to blow the bomb, destroying the island. When the class resumes, Zimmet is humiliated by the latest exercise, but Chips interrupts and proposes his own. The boat traveled far enough to dodge the explosion, leaving him alone with the 6 ladies. Chips says Nelson was attacked by a barracuda, Andy by a palm tree, and Kavi drowned when asked what happened to the other youngsters. In conclusion, Chips taps a different female every day because infertility doesn't exclude reproduction. All the students leave when Zimmet closes the lecture except Petra, who accuses him of punishing James with the exercise. Zimmet has been cheating on Petra and feels James is beneath her. Petra says that James shouldn't be punished for something he doesn't know about since she loves him and that intelligence isn't everything. Petra leaves Zimmet towards the end. When left alone at school, Zimmet imagines all the conceivable results of going to his office. When he finds his pistol, the building echoes with a shot, yet he usually eats.